So we've been asked to divide this polynomial by this binomial. Now, the first thing we have to make sure is that this polynomial is in proper descending order, which it is not. So this is my highest exponent here, and it's not out front. So I'm actually going to first rewrite this polynomial in the proper order. So this is my highest exponent, so this will actually be 2x3. So my next highest exponent is this, minus 3x squared. This is my next, plus 8x. And finally, minus 12. So this is the polynomial written in proper descending order. And only after we have done this can we actually do the division. So we are going to do the x minus 1 divided by this version here. 2x power of 3 minus 3x squared plus 8x minus 12. Okay. So similarly how we looked at the long dividing whole numbers, okay, we're going to be paying attention to the two terms here, and eventually we'll see the two terms here. It's a little bit different, so let's take a look. So I'm first going to look at the x. Okay, and there's an invisible 1 in front of that. So I'm going to take a look at this and this, and you'll see why I'm not paying attention to the negative 1 in a second. Okay, so I have to look at my two terms here and my two terms here. Okay, and the first thing I'm going to look at is the 1 and the 2. Okay, so if I look at 1, I think how many times can 1 go into 2? Well, it's going to be 2 times because it's 1 and 1. And those added together give me 2. So that's 2 of them there. And then I think, okay, what about the x and the x3? How many x's can go out of x to the 3? Okay, well, I've got an x. Already got this one. So how many more does it take to get into x3? Well, it only takes 2 more, right? Because this is already x to the 1. Okay, so that means if I take an x out of x to the power of 3, that leaves me with x squared. Okay, if I take an x to the power of 1 out of x to the power of 3, that leaves me with x squared. Okay, I know it's a little bit weird to get used to, but I promise it'll make sense as we go forward. Okay, now, just like we did with dividing whole numbers, okay, we're going to take this term, we're going to multiply it by both of these. Okay, if we do that, 2 times 1 is 2, x squared times x, okay, gives me x to the 3, but I've got more to this, right? I've still got that negative 1 here. So 2x squared times negative 1 gives me negative 2x squared. And next, we're going to subtract, just like we did with the numbers. And if we've done this right, this first term will cancel out. And it looks like it does, because 2x cubed minus 2x cubed is 0. That's exactly what we want, because when we subtract this one, we'll be left with a term. Now be very careful here, because we're subtracting a negative, which means we're actually going to be adding. Okay, so negative 3x squared plus 2x squared is going to leave us with minus 1x squared. And just like before, okay, we have two terms here. I need a second term, so I'm going to drop the next one, giving us a plus 8x. We do that all over again. Okay, but now I'm comparing the 1x to the negative 1x squared here. So taking a 1 out of a negative 1, well, that's still just negative 1. Okay, but if I take an 1x, a single x, out of x squared, that will leave me just 1x left. Okay, and now is where we do the multiplying. Okay, so we are going to multiply the negative 1x by both terms here. Okay, so negative 1x times 1x is just negative 1x squared, right? X times x, x squared. And negative 1x times negative 1. Negative 1 times negative 1 gives me a positive 1. And x just there. And now we divide and we subtract again. So again, if I've done this right, this term and this term will cancel. And it looks like they do, right? Because if we're subtracting a negative, that means we're adding. So negative 1 plus 1 leaves me with 0, which is good. So now I'm going to do 8x subtract 1x, leaving me with 7x. And again, I've got one more term to bring down. Minus 12. Okay. So how many times can one go into 7? Well, obviously it can go 7 times. Okay. If I take an x out of x, that just leaves me with no x's. So that's why this is just a plus 7. Okay. And we do our final multiplication here. So instead of that term, we now multiply this 7 by both. And let's see what we get. So 7 times 1x gives me 7x. 7 times negative 1 gives me negative 7. Finally, we subtract. And again, if I've done this right, this term and this term will cancel. And it does, because I've got 7x minus 7x, leaving me with 0. And don't forget, for subtracting a negative, we were actually adding. So negative 12 plus 7 will leave me with negative 5. Okay, and I don't have any other numbers to bring down, so this is my remainder. Okay, so if I divide x minus 1 out of 2x cubed minus 3x squared plus 8x minus 12, I get 2x squared minus x plus 7 with a remainder of negative